At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
You're listening to the Retro Mo Podcast. I'm your host, Mo, and I love to play and review old video games and a few new games too. If you prefer to read instead of listen, check out my written reviews at retromo.substack.com. In this episode, I'll be sharing my experience with StarCraft for the PC, released in 1998. I've scored this game 10 out of 10, a classic. Is this the greatest RTS of all time? What needs to be said about one of the greatest PC games ever made? StarCraft was the best-selling PC game in 1998. It was wildly popular in South Korea, which launched an impressive nationally televised esports league. In 2005, there were more live spectators at the StarCraft Sky Pro League finals than there were at the American Super Bowl. Wow. The Korean Air Force even created a professional StarCraft team so that Korean StarCraft pros could fulfill their country's military requirement without disrupting their StarCraft esports careers. Even outside of South Korea, the game is considered by many RTS fans to be the gold standard by which other real-time strategy games are measured. If any RTS game can claim to be near perfect, it's StarCraft. The 3 playable races are incredibly balanced. The Terrans, which are human, the Zerg, and the Protoss. Each have their own strengths and weaknesses. The single-player campaign is incredible, one of the best campaigns you can play in the genre. I find myself replaying StarCraft and the Brood War campaigns at least once or twice each decade. By the end of Brood War, the missions may begin to feel a bit repetitive because there are nearly 60 missions in total, but there's enough variety and unique variables in each mission to pull you along. It's hard to describe the incredible feeling of maximizing your resource gathering, creating 200 fully upgraded units, and then sending a huge wave towards your enemy's base. While Total Annihilation was the game that helped me fall in love with RTS games, StarCraft made me an RTS fan for life. The in-game isometric visuals serve their purpose. They aren't particularly awe-inspiring, but they're suitable for the time. StarCraft Remastered brings a lot more graphical clarity if you want to try that out. In 1998, early 3D games were continuing to develop and beginning to dominate the industry. Games like Ocarina of Time, Half-Life, Spyro, etc. But StarCraft, Baldur's Gate, and Fallout 2 were games that still delivered a great gaming experience using this classic isometric style. The cinematics aren't quite as stunning as what we'd see a few years later in Diablo 2 or Warcraft 3, but they are still effective in showing off some of StarCraft's excellent unit designs and providing more visual context. The compelling sci-fi narrative is one of my favorite aspects of the game. From the start, I became fully absorbed into this dystopian power struggle, with a full cast of intriguing characters. The excellent voice acting really gives StarCraft an edge over other games from that time. The soundtrack is also very good. I don't have the StarCraft soundtrack in my Spotify rotation, but these tracks still fulfill their intended function perfectly. The Terran tracks are the most memorable, in addition to the iconic main title screen music. The Zerg tracks are suitable for the nature of the Zerg race, of course, but not very listenable outside of the game. Zerg tracks utilize a lot of dark horror stingers, creepy sounds, and dissonant synths. The Protoss tracks are still dark and brooding, but more akin to traditional fantasy game music. These tracks make great use of softer synth pads and eerie vocal layers to create an otherworldly sound. StarCraft is simply a must-play for any fans of the real-time strategy genre. This is probably my favorite RTS game. It's so hard to choose sometimes. And it's considered by many to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, RTS games of all time. Thanks for listening to the Retro Mo podcast. As always, I do my best to keep all of my content spoiler-free and rated E for everyone. If you find this podcast enjoyable or helpful, tell a friend and consider giving a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. If you have questions or comments, you can send an email to retromopodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Godspeed.